And welcome back. In this video, beginning to get some more Pro Seal action done. Up to this point, I have Pro Sealed the stiffeners to the bottom of the skin, and as you can see, they're all clecoed in place. As I talked about earlier, I am trying a process that I saw on the Vans forums, where you basically you put everything in place, you Pro Seal it in place, and then you apply clecos, and then let it sit for a day or so, and basically let it firm up a little bit, and then you go in and you put the rivets in place. Well, unfortunately, time took a little longer than I was anticipating, and so this is actually probably about 3 days that the tank sat with the clecos holding the stiffeners in place, and I am now going in and filling in the hole with some Pro Seal, putting in the rivet, and then riveting it in place. And that's the second step of the process. Once I get through all of these rivets, then you'll see me go through on the inside and Pro Seal the backside of all of these rivets. Obviously, these being penetrating points, you want to make sure you have plenty of Pro Seal sealing that hole on both sides so that you don't have any fuel leaks. It's not going to be the easiest thing once you get all of this put in place to be able to undo it and fix any leaks. So, like I said, this is a kind of a test on something that an experienced builder had said they had done. And unfortunately, I've stretched it a little longer than what he had mentioned, but we'll see how things work when I do my leak tests. Fast forward a little bit here because it's a whole lot of redundancy, but as you see, I've got little that's I want to say it's a 2 or 2.5 ounce container of Pro Seal that I'm using right there. This one I think I had alluded to in an earlier video. This is the half-hour cure time Pro Seal, and I don't recommend going with it, even for this kind of job. I was barely able to squeeze out enough to use for all of these rivets here, and I was going quick, but just the whole process of removing a few of the clecos and then riveting in place and all that kind of stuff, it just takes up time. And so I would recommend going with the regular 2 or 4 hour cure time containers of Pro Seal. But it worked. I was able to get through it. The caulking gun that I have there in my hand is one that I purchased from Vans, and it works. I've heard of stories of people's gun breaking. The brackets basically busted the weld. I have not obviously experienced that so far, but it's a $17 tool, and if worse comes to worse, I can always just take a normal Home Depot style caulking gun and then just tape it in place to secure it, but it would work just as well. So I'm not too worried about the gun itself, but the one problem I did have with it is that it seemed to, the ramrod that goes inside and squeezes the material out, seemed to get cockeyed on the plastic insert, and got about halfway through the container, and it was just hard to get anything to squeeze out because it started coming out the inside where the ramrod goes in. So anyway, now you see me using some acetone to wipe off any excess Pro Seal, and I highly recommend doing it as soon as you are done riveting. It gets only harder once you let it start to cure. Where I am now is I just finished. I have all the ribs Pro Sealed for the most part. I think I have the inner rib remaining. But all of the main ribs and the outer rib are all Pro Sealed in place, and I let it sit for a day, and then after I had riveted those in place, and it was significantly harder to get the Pro Seal off with the acetone. So highly recommend going through and wiping it off as soon as you are done. Here now I'm using, this is the standard Pro Seal. This is I believe it's a 6.5 ounce tube of Pro Seal, and I'm going through and I'm applying Pro Seal to the back end of every rivet. And you want to apply a generous amount. Like I said, you want to make sure that you get this completely sealed so that no fuel will find its way through. And so you go through every single rivet back piece. Make sure you put in a very generous glob and put it in place. Now, this is the fuel cap. This is going to get inserted on the inside of the fuel tank. And again, using the same practice where apply the Pro Seal, put it in place, and use Clecos to hold it there and let it start to cure. And then once it tacks for about a day or so, then go back in and rivet the fuel tank in place. And again, using the Pro Seal in the holes, put the rivet in, drive the rivet, and then put Pro Seal on the back of the rivet as well. Now this is the inner piece, the inner rib. It has you apply several flanges, and also it has you put those in place. You want to use Pro Seal to set those in place. Again, trying to minimize the chance of anything leaking through. And you saw there I used a towel to kind of wipe off any excess on the inside in the threads area and things like that. Try to keep it as clean as you can and minimize the amount that's, excess amount. The instructions actually even tell you to ensure that you keep the hexagonal area in one of the brackets there. Make sure you take that and wipe out any excess there so that the hexagonal nut that will sit there will sit flush. And so that's one thing you want to try to make sure you pay attention to. So now I am finally working on putting the ribs in place, and using the headlamp to just make it easier to see what I'm doing. And then I'm wearing my outfit. I call this my "Trust Me, I Built This Airplane" outfit. It's this Pro Seal stuff gets messy, and you want to wear clothes that you don't really care about if you get this gunk on there, because it's not coming out. If you get anything on your shirts, it's more than likely not coming out. So as you can see, I'm wearing the gloves, and I change them out pretty regularly. And like I said, I'm wearing clothes that I don't particularly care if I get them messed up or not. So in this whole process, like I said, I'm using that 6.5 ounce tube, and in the process of getting all of the rivets covered on the back side, and I think I'm able to get 2, maybe 3 ribs set in place before I run out. So I would recommend getting at least 2 6.5 ounce tubes for your first tank, because you're going to learn and going to use a process. When you get to the second tank, you might be able to squeeze it out in less than, maybe only 1 tube, but I would recommend at least be prepared that you might want to buy at least 4 in total. They're not cheap. I think the ones that I found on I want to say it's Aircraft Spruce is where I purchased these from. I think they were $45 a piece, somewhere around there, $45 to $55 a piece. And they have a hand mixer, basically a ramrod that mixes the material and tells you how many times you have to cycle the ramrod to mix the 2 parts together. And then you put a nozzle on the end of it, put it in your squeeze gun, and go to town. Makes it real easy, actually. It's not nearly as bad of a process as what I'd heard. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and let this video run out here. I've got a couple more that will be in the works here shortly. And again, for those who continue to watch these videos, I appreciate it. I will try to get out a couple more videos as I start to work, but it's starting to get hot outside, so I'm limited to working at night. So I'll get some out as soon as I'm able, and hopefully get these tanks done. Again, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time.